making first cut. Golly.
Welcome to the First Cut Podcast. I'm Rick Gehman, and this is your final check-in for this week's PGA Championship weather reports, storylines, and a man on the scene. It's Doug Bell. Doug, welcome. Where looks like you're in the media center. Is that correct?
That is, Rick and Kyle, good to be with you guys. We were outside. We had this gorgeous ocean view for the podcast, right? And then the shower came through, and Mario, who's producing and shooting for me, he said, "Do we have to stand in the rain?" And I said, "No, let's go inside." So we're in the media center just for a few moments. And the weather is clearing up, and we're expecting great weather the rest of the week, but very windy conditions, as you might expect.
As we certainly do expect. Kyle Porter rounds out our group for today. And KP, I thought you would appreciate this. Our guy, Jordo, not a great look out there with the Under Armour gear on Wednesday morning. So I said, in solidarity of him not only winning this event, but his ugly practice rounds outfit, I found the ugliest Under Armour stuff that I have, and I wore it just for you.
Well, it's not good. Ryan Ballingy on Twitter said it best. He looks like a treasure map. Like there's a big X on his back. It's horrible. I might have to change my pick. I mean, that's how bad it is. I might have to not pick him anymore. Is he going to wear that in the tournament?
I certainly hope not. Imagine Sunday evening. He's hoisting the trophy with that abomination on him. It would be terrible.
Yes, it would be
I've
bad.
got some stuff to give away though. So let's do this. A year subscription to Sportsline. All the picks, all the everything, all the analysis they've got going on over there. Just follow us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Leave a 5-star rating and review on Apple Pods. Leave your Twitter handle so that we can get in touch with you. And make sure you follow us at First Cut Pod. But really what we're here for is you, Doug. You are live on the scene. Mark Immelman, of course, also there. He was making us shake in our boots yesterday. He was telling us how difficult the Ocean course is going to play. I just want to get your thoughts, a second opinion on the way that this course is setting up for these players this week.
Well, it is going to be difficult. There's no question. The emphasis is on the length, which is more than 7,800 yards. But again, I think that's taken a little out of context because about half the holes will play downwind, down breeze. And when you have 15 to 20 miles per hour behind you, that's significant. So it certainly shortens the golf course on those holes. But holes 14 through 18, the prevailing wind right now, those will be into the teeth of the wind. And I know yesterday, Tony Finau, one of the longer hitters out here, 2 of those holes are par 3s. And one of the par 3s, he hit a driving iron, which is his 3-iron that he hit like 255. And he said he's never done that in a par 3 before. And then number 17, he was hitting a 4-iron. And that's significant because most of these guys, when you talk about DeChambeau and Rahm and DJ and Justin Thomas, et cetera, they're going into these holes with 9-irons and wedges, even at major championship venues. But here, those last 5 holes, they're coming in with 5-iron, 4-iron. When you're going into a 25, 30 mile per hour gust, it's significant. So it's going to be difficult, guys, as you know, but it is different than when they played here the last time in August. It's not hot. You do have some spotty lies around the greens. They're going to miss greens. So in that regard, it'll be tricky for the players. But listen, these guys are so good. There's going to be some guys 2-3 under par tomorrow and the next day. And I think that'll be the standard for these players as they roll through Kiawah.
You know, KP, it's funny when we hear guys like Tony Finau, Bryson DeChambeau, they're hitting 4-iron, 5-iron. What does that leave for Brian Gay? What does that leave for the other guy? Like, you know what I mean? Like everybody else.
Yeah, your boy Brian Harmon might labor through this weekend. I don't know. I've got a bunch of notes written down here. I think here's what's going to be interesting. And I didn't really think about this during our podcast on Tuesday, but I heard Andy Johnson and Brendan Porath talking about it on the Shotgun Start on Wednesday morning. And they were talking about so they're going to move the tees around, right? It's not just like all these guys and Doug's been out there. All these guys are playing all the holes from the tips for the most part. I mean, I'm sure there are guys that are hitting up or whatever, but it's not going to put the back nine is not going to play 4,000 yards on Thursday or Friday or Saturday. So I think that they're going to do, like when we talk about, hey, is it's even going to win? Is something over par going to win? I don't think the PGA wants that. And I think they're going to set up I think the PGA, like, here's my take on the PGA Championship. I think it's fair. Like, I don't know. I don't even really know what fair means in a golf tournament, but if there's a fairest major championship, they just do such a great job of setting it up and just letting guys go get it. And Adam Scott was talking about this on Tuesday. He said it's not like tricked up or like weird or tricked out or anything like that. It's just kind of right in front of you. It's just hard. And I refuse to believe that Kerry Haigh and the PGA of America is going to set it up to where guys are shooting 79s. If it's blowing 30, whatever, like that can happen. But I think they're going to set it up in a way that's fair, where you can shoot scores, like Doug said. And I don't know. I don't think the wind is going to be as big of a deal when it's set up differently than it is in the practice rounds.
So I do agree with that. And Doug, for the most part, I don't think we're looking for carnage out there. The PGA of America is looking for carnage. But the one thing that they really can't control is if the wind kicks, you've got 12 raised fairways that are going to be exposed. It doesn't matter what the setup is if that happens.
Well, Rick, let me tell you this. The fairways here are wide. I mean, in some cases, 35, 40 yards wide. So that's significant. And on an ocean course, you have to have that because of the wind that you're talking about. But the other thing is the rough really is not that penal here. It's the time of year. And so if you do miss the fairways, and again, a guy like DeChambeau, it's not necessarily important for him to hit every fairway. He's not going to, but just miss it in the right spots. I mean, if you're 25, 30 yards wide either way, you're going to be in ththese natural areas, and Lord knows what you're going to be hitting out of, right? But if you miss the fairway 10, 15 yards, you're still going to be okay. So, again, I agree totally with Kyle and you. I just don't see carnage. This isn't a U.S. Open over par type setup. I think the winning score by the end of the tournament, I think it'll be somewhere in the 10 to 12 under par range.
Wow. Okay. So let's talk about the beefy one. Bryson DeChambeau enters this week. KP probably not in the form that he would like. I can certainly take some positives from the Wells Fargo Championship where he lost, 7 strokes on approach and still finished 10th. I could take, some takeaways from some of these weeks, but I think there's a lot more questions about the state of Bryson's game leading into this major championship than maybe the last few major championships that we've been a part of.
Yeah, I have very mixed feelings about him this week. There's a bunch of different things going on because we talk about having these really long clubs into holes. Well, he's going to have the shortest, of all the 156 guys, he's going to be hitting the shortest clubs into these holes, right? And that's just a built-in advantage. The other thing is and we talked about this on Tuesday, his distance from the edge of the fairway. So that measures how wild he gets when he hits it offline. He's like 200 or like 196th on the tour in distance from the edge of the fairway. So when Doug talks about the natural areas, he's going to probably find some of those. So it's not a wing foot situation or even a TPC Harding Park situation where you just kind of like bomb it out there and there's not these penalty. There's going to be a lot of penalty areas here that are prohibiting him from, he can bring an 8 into play pretty easily, bring a 9 into play. And we've seen him do that, right? At Muirfield Village, at Augusta, where he just brings these huge numbers into play. And that's my concern for him is, does he bring an 8, 9, or 10 into play? And then all of a sudden you've just taken yourself out of the tournament on a Thursday or a Friday.
Well, Doug, the winged foot situation that Kyle is referring to, for those who don't remember, is that the rough was incredibly long, incredibly thick, and the fairways were too narrow, so everybody was playing out of the rough. And when you're Bryson DeChambeau and you bomb it further than everybody, and you've got the club head speed to extract the ball from the rough, you are at a significant advantage. Now, Doug, we just heard you say the rough at Kiowa Island, not as penal this week. Those native areas seem like it's going to be almost random. What kind of lie do you get? I think Mark was telling us that there's an option to rake them. You never know what you're getting into over there. So how do you see this playing out for DeChambeau over the course of the week?
Well, let me tell you this, guys. Yesterday, I was out watching him hit on the range, and you might have seen it on the Golf Channel when he's just doing this impressive long drive competition, right? And I harken back. Remember when Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa were doing their home run chase?
Yeah,
and
and
everybody
like,
piled into the stadium to watch batting practice, right? I mean, I want to watch batting practice with Bryson DeChambeau. I mean, it's so much fun, and it is utterly amazing that what he creates this club at speed, and he does it. I mean, he must have hit 75 to 90 drives while I was watching, just one after another. I mean, it is remarkable. But Rick, I look at your numbers and I read Kyle's stuff. I mean, if you look at his stroke gain numbers, tee to green, Bryson DeChambeau is right near the top. I mean, his statistics are astounding. We talk about this long drive competition that he has, and it's worth the price of admission. I love it. But I look at his overall statistical game, and it all adds up to what could be a win here this week. I really think his distance gives him a distinct advantage as long as he keeps it within the confines. I'm not talking about the fairway, just the confines, 10, 15 yards either way. Again, if you go into the natural areas, we're talking about, triple bogey or more coming into the picture. But if you can keep it in the confines, I think this adds up. Could be a really, really good week for him.
Real quick, do you get concerned about so I love what Doug said there about it can run out more than like the US Open, the rough is so high that it's weird in that it like kind of keeps it in play, especially even at a place like Torrey. I think it's going to keep it kind of in play, and that it's hard to get into trouble in terms of run out. And here I feel like it's almost harder for him to kind of keep things like the bumpers are not up in the bowling lane, right? And you can throw a gutter ball pretty easily at a place like this. Do you agree with that?
I do, and I think it is why there is, at least from me, some concern about Bryson DeChambeau. And Doug was even mentioning with his strokes gain numbers, which I think is a really good illustration of this. He is capable of gaining 5 strokes on approach in a week, losing 5 strokes on approach. He's capable of getting wild, and I think that's by design, KP, right? Like this volatility that Bryson has is by design. It is not for him to finish 12th at every event that he plays. It is for him to either win the golf tournament or miss the cut, go home early. Like this is by design, and I think the volatility, the run out, the big numbers, he makes more big numbers than any of the top players in the world, it feels like. I mean, I think this is all by design.
Yeah, and I think you can often tell early on how it's going to go, right? I mean, think about what was it, Augusta I think it was in November, where he makes the 8 or 9 early on, the 10 at Muirfield Village or whatever he made there. So obviously we're always watching him, but I think early in the event, he's going to be really fascinating to see not only his strategy, but just how it goes early on for him and whether he's locked in.
Yeah, we'll put a bow on it like this because I think the adjustments thing is important with Bryson DeChambeau. I think, Doug, I think from round to round, he is one of the best guys at adjustments. He knows exactly what things feel like. He's going to go to the range. He's going to work on it. He's not afraid to be the last guy at the range with the lights on, all that stuff. I wonder more about the in-round adjustments. I think that Kyle's right. When things start to go one direction, whether good or bad, in the middle of a round, that's the way it's going. I'm not sure there's a whole lot of flipping that until he gets to the range, gets his launch monitor, and gets everything figured out.
I like his chances, though, guys. I really, really do. He hasn't played particularly well at the Masters, and leading up to this event, I mean, he's had his ups and downs as you've described. But I think those holes that are downwind are going to be he's going to have these short little irons. Well, they're all the same length, right? But he's going to have short distances into these greens. And then I think when those last 5 holes we talked about back into the wind, I think he has a distinct advantage. So we'll see how it plays out. And again, nobody talks about that wonderful short game that he has. And it really is. Yeah. His putting is really, really good, especially when you compare him to other top players.
For sure. And speaking of another top player that we didn't get to talk about on Tuesday, Jon Rahm, the number 3 player in the world. We didn't spend an ounce of oxygen on Tuesday, KP. And I think this is a really interesting situation for Jon Rahm. He makes the equipment switch at the beginning of the new year, and he's played great. He's been piling up top 10s. but no victories. And we kind of live in this world where we grade these top players on victories. And while he's had some struggles with the metrics, the one thing that seems to be just a little bit off since switching to Callaway is the putter. And that's something we've seen him, conjure magic with in the past. Are we concerned? Is this natural? Should we just say he's playing great, he's piling up top tens, don't worry about it?
Well, I'm more concerned about his approach play has kind of fallen off over the last month. Like if you look at his strokes gain numbers on approach play, and that's his bread and butter is obviously off the tee, he's long, but also his iron game is, I don't know, top 7 in the world. He's a great iron player, and he hasn't been for a month. Now, I think the thing about Rahm that is terrifying for the rest of the field is that he has every single shot. And I think that if it's windy and you're playing a place like Kiawah, like you don't have to have, it's very beneficial to have different types of shots and not just the same shot over and over again. You want to hit it low, you want to work it both ways. And he has all that. Like he has it maybe more than anybody else in the world, especially with like long irons. And he's just such a creative, interesting, good player with a wind and with that iron play. So I wonder if I do want, the thing I've been thinking about with him is I wonder if a really hard week kind of pulls that out of him. You know, he's been playing like Byron Nelson and these courses that are very easy. I wonder if a difficult, hard track kind of draws that out of him and he kind of flips the switch and plays well. But he's another guy, man, like if you talk about losing your cool at a US Open or getting frustrated, that can spiral in a hurry. And if he gets a bad bounce out of a, fairway and it ends up in like behind a tree or whatever, like I think it's going to take so much patience and discipline this week that I wonder if I don't know. I don't know if he's like can handle that. I really don't. And I don't know. We'll see how it goes.
I kind of like that about Jon Rahm. The fire, Doug. He wouldn't be Jon Rahm without that fire. You'll see him walking down the fairway with Adam Hayes and just like ripping into him. Just get it all out. That's their thing. Just get it all out. Don't worry about it. We'll figure it out on the next shot. And I actually think that Rahm is very much, I don't want to say the opposite of Bryson, but Rahm's the consistent guy, right? Rahm is always gaining strokes off the tee. He's always near the first page of the leaderboard. Doesn't have as many victories this year, this calendar year, of course. But I mean, this is a major championship. This is where guys like Jon Rahm are supposed to shine.
Well, Rick, and I've said it a lot, I really believe of all the top players, he has more ammunition and more weapons in his bag than all the other guys. And you're thinking, now, wait a minute. I'm telling you, remember last year at the Memorial when he won, and he must have gotten up and down last 2 days on the weekend, like 12 times from these really wild bunker areas. And I'm like, I mean, this guy really has a great imagination, great skill. At the same time, I walked with him yesterday, I think the last 4 holes. And, he had that really short backswing, the shortest of all the top players. And it's this really fast, short, boom, boom type deal. And he was out of kilter yesterday. I mean, he was hitting it all over the place. And he has this, when he's really swinging fast, he has this rope hook. I mean, it just gets away from him. It just goes left, hard left. I think we can all relate to that, right? But that's bothersome to me when I see a great player. He didn't seem like he was in sync yesterday. And the other thing, even though I think the world of him, and I think he's a highly intelligent young man whose future is incredibly bright. He did have a baby. Celebrated the birth of his baby a week before the Masters, and I think that takes your focus off the game right now. He's settling into fatherhood. I think that is significant. I really do. And I think mentally focused, maybe not where you should be for a major championship. That's just my opinion.
Speaking of major championships, Jon Rahm has played in, KP, you want to take a guess at how many of these he's played in?
How many majors?
Yeah.
I think I should retire from trivia after my performance on
it was pretty
Tuesday. Rahm has probably played in 16.
18 major championships. He's got 6 top 10s. Of course, no wins, no runner-up finishes for a guy of this caliber, KP. When do we start to say, why doesn't he have any of these?
Again, like well, I don't know if I talked about this with somebody this week. It might have been on the Fried Egg podcast with Andy Johnson. I think it's less about why doesn't he have one of these and more about why isn't he contended in one of these? Like, what's his contention at a major?
Well, I don't know if he was if he backdoored it or if he was in it, but he was a T3 at the 19 US Open. He's got a couple of fourth place finishes. Yeah, fourth place at the 2018 PGA and fourth at the 2018 Masters would have been like his best chances.
And none, like, do you remember him being in it in any of those? I mean,
the thing I remember him being in the most was at the Players when he dunked it in the water on 12. What was it, 12 or 13? 12? That's right. What I remember.
So that's where it's like, you almost have to give somebody like Xander more credit than him in terms of like, okay, Xander also hasn't won one, but it doesn't feel problematic because he's been in the final pairing. He's been in the final pairing at least twice, multiple times. And Rahm just hasn't, like, my bigger problem with him is that he hasn't really been in it on a Sunday. If you don't win, whatever, like, stuff happens. It's luck can play into it, whatever. But I don't know. It does feel like, I think once you get to 20 and if he still hasn't really contended, I think that starts to become kind of a question.
All right. Well, it's this one in the U.S. Open at Torrey Pines for Kyle. That'll get him to 20. And Doug, listen, I think Kiowa would be a pretty good setup for him. We know that Torrey Pines would be is a great setup for him, a place that he has won at before. So for me, I'm not as worried about the lack of wins or contention. He is so good. He has all the shots. I think it's just a matter of time.
Totally agree. And I think once he wins one, it'll be several more in a short period of time. I'm just not sure, again, I'm just giving you the eyeball test. And I walked with him a little bit yesterday. Just didn't seem like he was sharp. So we'll have to say, these guys hit the switch. I mean, they don't look sharp one week. They win the next week. They don't look great the practice round. They play great the next day. So we'll see. I do think the key for Jon, though, as it is for most of these great players, you got to get off to a decent start. Doesn't have to be a great start, but level par, 1 under would be a great start for Jon Rahm, and we'll see. We'll see where it goes. You start 3 or 4 over par, and then it's very hard at a golf course like this against this field to play catch up.
All right, KP, let's rapid fire through some of your topics. You got some stuff for us here?
Yeah, I've been taking some notes, wrote some stuff down, so I'm just going to roll through these really quick. The PGA is underrated. It's awesome. It's really fun. Every year I feel like we get to Saturday and we're like, man, this major is so fun. And we forget it. And then we say it again and we forget it and say it again. Number 2, I think this is going to turn into like a long iron competition, which is phenomenal. I love that. We never see it, right? We see driver wedge, driver wedge, driver wedge. Even at a place like Augusta, I mean, you see driver wedge, and for guys to be talking about hitting 5 irons, 4 irons, 3 irons. When's the last time you saw somebody hit a 3 iron?
I didn't even think they carried 3 irons anymore.
I know. I'm really excited about that. I'm still not totally sure why people are talking about it as if it's way more difficult than 2012. So that's kind of a question that I'm interested in kind of figuring out as the week goes on. Let's see. Did you see Eamon Lynch's tweet on Rory talking about Ian Poulter?
No.
When he said Rory walked off the range and said, "Hey, Poulter's over there hitting 3 woods, 189 yards."
I didn't see that.
And then last 2 things. One, I think we are maybe not giving enough credit to older, like, veterans. Like, when you hear guys talk about who played well in 2012, they talk about guys that were older, that didn't get flustered. So like that to me sounds like a Lee Westwood and Adam Scott, guys that are really good ball strikers that have experienced everything. I think those guys are interesting to watch out for. And I think a guy like Abraham Answer, who hits a ton of fairways. At first I thought length was going to be an issue for somebody like him, but when Doug talks about, hey, when it's down, it doesn't really play 7,800 yards. I wonder if somebody like him who's been playing well is gonna thrive this week. And then the last thing, the best possible scenario, I think, going into the tournament is Rory Spieth final pairing on Sunday afternoon.
I know it. Yeah, that would be absolutely magical. Doug, we are going to get you out of here with a couple of picks. And also, since Kyle brought it up,
Sure.
Let's start with this. Your dream final pair for Sunday at the 2021 PGA Championship would be who?
Well, I think you have to put Dustin Johnson in there, a South Carolina guy, number one player in the world. I think that'd be kind of fun to have him in the final pairing. And then let's go. I guess you have to go Rory McIlroy, the guy who won it here before, and he won 3 weeks ago. And everybody's saying, is Rory back to where he should be, the number one player in the world? I think that'd be pretty exciting. Listen, all due respect to Jordan Spieth, and I know Kyle loves the guy, and I do too. But I just think a Rory DJ final pairing would be pretty cool.
I love all of those. I'll take Brooks and Bryson. Let's give me that finally. Let's go. We've got some stuff to work through. Brooks,
that would be sweet.
All right, Doug. It is time. We are going to get your sleeper, your top 10 lock, and your pick to win. So let's start with the sleeper. We'll ease into this.
All right, guys. My sleeper, a guy who has a win and a second in his last 2 stops, Sam Burns. I think he's plus 4,000. Talked to Sam briefly yesterday, and listen, these guys all capture lightning in a bottle for about a 4 to 5 week run, and Sam is trying to hold on to that lightning. I think it's still in the bottle, and I think at plus 4,000, he's a pretty good sleeper pick.
Sam Burns has his finger in the end of the bottle, just trying to keep it in there. I love it. Your top 10 lock for the PGA Championship, please.
I'm going with Will Zalatoris, guys, and why not the Z-Man? I was looking at what he did here. Tie for second at the Masters, tie for 6th at the U.S. Open, 21st at the Players, tie for 7th at the Farmers, 10th at the Arnold Palmer. I mean, guys, that's incredible at some really tough golf courses.
Yeah.
And listen, if you ever see him in person, his iron play is off the charts. I like the Z-Man. We'll start calling him the Z-Man.
The Z-Man, it's always, I always find it interesting when peers rave about someone. We hear it with Will Zalatoris. We heard it through when Sung J M was coming out, all the President's Cup guys. When they start raving about their peers, they're great ball strikers. All right, Doug, the moment everybody's been waiting for, your pick to win the 2021 PGA Championship.
Well, I like the guy from Norway, Victor Hovland, guys. He has 6 top 5 this season, including a win at Mayakoba. And, I walk with him a lot for the radio. And, he has these fantastic finishes, whether it's a concession or Valspar. And he just keeps telling me, it's coming together. We're getting close. It's going to happen. We're going to win a big one. I think it's this week, Victor Hovland. And listen, he's kind of off the radar, which is kind of weird, right?
Yeah.
The Paspalum King trying to win for the 3rd time on those greens. Doug, I got to tell you before I let you out of here, we were listening. I was driving back last Saturday or Sunday, and my wife and I were listening to you on the radio. And I don't remember the situation, but somebody backed off, and you had to vamp for 10 or 15 or 20 seconds or whatever. And my wife was like, "Wow, how did he come up with all that stuff on the spot?" I'm like, "It's Doug Bell. He knows what he's doing. He's a professional. He's got this. He can vamp for us however long you need." So we enjoyed it.
Oh, well, thank you. It's funny. I know a lot of useless information about golf, and I can fill some time. So I guess what I do, that's a positive, right?
Awesome stuff. All right. Much appreciated, gentlemen. That is our final check-in for this week's PGA Championship. Obviously, this thing kicks off Thursday morning, but for now, let me thank producer Jacob, all the hard work behind the scenes. That's Doug Bell live from Keo Island. You can find him on Twitter at Doug Bell ESPN, Kyle Porter KP at Kyle Porter CBS, and you can find me at Rick Run Good. This has been The First Cut, and we'll catch you next time.